testament of Noah that he left.
Really?
Yes. And there's some words missing because this comes from the Dead Sea Scrolls, and some of them wasn't all
Yeah.
readable. But it's quite long. Of course, Noah became king.
Well, there are only 8 of them, so.
8 well.
When the flooding stopped, there were only 8 of them, right?
Yeah. Which is quite, it's kind of interesting when you read the history of them. And you get these things to help fill it in.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, is it time to start anyway?
Yeah, it's.
Okay, wow, it's after time to start. Okay. I just had some messages. Mr. Charles, I forgot to tell him that. Mr. Charles texted me and said he won't be here, his back is hurting. So, anyway. So if it's just you and me, that's okay.
Okay. So Noah becomes king.
Let me go way back.
Okay.
And I of course don't have time to read everything. But you can get the genealogy of Noah in chapter 5 of Genesis. And you'll notice it's like, so all the days of Enosh were 905 years and he died. Canaan lived 70 years and begot Mahalia. And after he begot Halia, Canaan lived 840 years and begot sons and daughters. So all the days of Canaan were 910 years and he died. Mahalia lived 65 years and begot Jared. And it goes on. Jared lived 162 years and begot Enoch. After he begot Enoch, Jared lived 800 years and begot sons and daughters. So all the days of Jared were 962. Enoch lived 65 years and begot Methuselah. And of course then he had sons and daughters, and that's important. Okay, to know. So all the days of Enoch were 365, and Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Methuselah lived 187 years and begot Lamech. After he begot Lamech, he lived another 802 years. So all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. And he's the oldest one that ever lived. Okay, Lamech lived 182 years and begot a son. And he called his name Noah. But we'll find out that that name really came from the Methuselah.
I just texted you.
Saying, this one will comfort us concerning our work and the toil of our hands, because the ground which the Lord had cursed. After he begot Noah, Lamech lived 595 years, so his time was really shortened, and it'll go into why, and begot his sons and daughters. And so all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begot Shem and Ham. Okay, now maybe we should have did the Nephilim first, because the reason for the flood was kind of the Nephilim. So, wickedness and judgment of man. Now it came to pass, when men began to multiply in the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw daughters of men, and they were beautiful, and they took wives themselves of all whom they chose.
So who are the sons of God?
Exactly. So, when we get into the others, we sort of find out who are the sons of God are the angels that came and married the daughters. Now, what they also did is they took women by force. In other words, if they were married to someone and they wanted them, they took them by force.
Sons of God would be them?
Well, I don't have an answer for it all, okay? But yeah, it's called the sons of God. What that means is still a mystery to everybody that studies the Bible. Who is the sons of God?
Because that doesn't
I can
make-
answer, because some of these I can answer,
Yeah.
and some of them I can't, you know.
Sons of God and force are like polar opposites.
Well, it goes back to, are the angels sons of God? Is Satan a son of God? You know, there's theories out there that Jesus
and
and
Satan are brothers.
yeah, and
it's
of course,
Cain and Abel, kind of.
right, and nothing says that, but there's
Right.
theories out there that.
Right.
But they're still talking about the sons of God. So this will start to clarify, but it may create more questions than answers. But it'll
Not-
answer a lot.
Not
more.
always does.
Yeah, I know. Okay, and the Lord said, my spirit shall not strive with men forever, for he is indeed flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years.
Right.
Okay, so this is before the flood,
Mhm.
yet everybody was still living longer. But the flood is what everything changed. There were giants on the earth.
Right before, because this is right before the flood.
Right before. This is Noah's alive now.
Right. But we're gearing up for the flood.
We're gearing up for the
But the
flood.
days have already been cut short.
Yeah, and I don't know if God said that's what it's gonna be. Now, if it was or not at that time, I don't know, it doesn't say.
Yeah.
But it definitely was afterwards. Not for Noah, and not for his sons, because they lived over.
It would
Really
be for
quite-
the next generation.
Yeah, I mean, when you get into Noah, went back and lived with Enoch. See, when he was growing up, because the king wanted to kill him. Well, I'll try to get into that here. Okay, now, Bible, chapter 6, verse 4. There were giants on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of the men, into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of the old, men of renown. Then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And the Lord was sorry that he made man on earth, and he was grieved in his heart. So the Lord said, I will destroy man, whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, creeping thing, birds, air from the air, for I am sorry that I made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Okay, so, and then it talks about Noah pleases God. And that's scripture. Now, Lamech was Noah's father.
Okay. Who's a descendant of Methuselah?
And Methuselah is Noah's grandfather. Okay, important to know. Now, prophecy of the birth. Now, this is from Enoch, the great-great-grandfather. Okay, so now, this is a dream, not a fact, but a dream. Lamech's dream, father of Noah. After some time, my son Methuselah took a wife for his son Lamech, And she became pregnant by him and bore a son. And his body was white as snow and red as the blooming of a rose. And his hair of his head was white as wool, and his eyes were beautiful. When he opened his eyes, they lit up the whole house like the sun, and the whole house was very bright. And when he was taken from the hands of the midwife, he opened his mouth and spoke to the Lord of righteousness. And his father Lamech was afraid of him and fled, and came to his father Methuselah. Now, Methuselah wasn't his father. Methuselah was grandfather. But when they say father, that can go back for several generations. So a father can be a great-great-great-grandfather. Okay. His father Lamech was afraid of him and fled, and came to his father Methuselah, and he said to him, I have begotten a strange son. Well, this is a little different than the dream part. Okay, I have begotten, this is Lamech to Methuselah. I have begotten a strange son, unlike a man, but resembling the sons of the angels of heaven. And his nature is different. He is not like us, and his eyes are as the rays of the sun, and his countenance is beautiful. It seems to me that he is not sprang from me, but from the angels, and I fear that awful things will happen on earth in his days. Now, backing up to the Nephilim. The word Nephilim means the fallen ones, fallen angels. Okay, and they have another name, and apparently there were 200 fallen angels that went and bred women. Now, there's another name, I forgot what it's called, it starts with R, but it's, and instead of Nephilim, that's Ryephilim or something like that. That is the children, the offspring.
Right, because they're mixed.
Yeah. And anyway, so these fallen ones are referred to as the sons of God in some cases here. Now, we don't necessarily see that in the Bible being official and these being just history books. Okay. But we're trying to go back in history to figure out any. Okay, so he's different. Noah's born, and he's completely different. And besides that, when he was taken from the hands of the midwife, he spoke to God, which was different. So, Lamech seeks Enoch's interpretation. So Lamech, the father of Noah, did not go to Enoch. He went to his father, Methuselah, to have his father go to his father, which was Methuselah. Now, my father, I'm here to ask and implore you to go to our father, Enoch, and learn the truth from him, for his dwelling place is with the angels. Now, these babies that were born were different. You know, all had different things, and that's why he thought his wife had cheated on him and mated with an angel.
Right.
And when Methuselah heard the words of his son, he came to me at the end of the earth, for he had heard that I was there. And he cried aloud, and I heard his voice, and I came to him and said unto him, Behold, here am I, my son. Why have you come to me? Said Methuselah to Enoch, Enoch to Methuselah. And he answered and said, I have come to you because of a disturbing vision which has caused me great anxiety. Now he talks about it being a vision. And now, my father, hear me. Unto Lamech my son there was born a son, whose likeness and nature was unlike other men. His color was whiter than snow and redder than the blossom of a rose. And the hair of his head was whiter than white wool. And his eyes were like the rays of the sun, and when he opened his eyes, he illuminated the whole house. And he arose in the hands of the midwife. He opened his mouth and spoke to the Lord of heaven. And his father Lamech was afraid and fled to me, and did not believe that the child sprang from him, because his likeness was like that of the angels of heaven. And behold, I have come to you that you may tell me the truth. Again, Enoch, it says, lived with the angels.
Right.
Enoch interprets the dream. And I, Enoch, answered and said unto him, the Lord will do a new thing on the earth, and this I have already seen in a vision. I need to tell you that in the generation of my father Jared, some of the angels of heaven transgressed the word of the Lord. They committed sin and transgressed the law by uniting themselves with women. They committed sin with them, and have married some of them, and have begotten children by them. And great destruction will come over the whole earth. And there will be a flood of water, and a great destruction for 1 year. The son whom was born unto you will be left on the earth, and his 3 children will be saved with him. When all mankind, now he's talking about his 3 children before they were ever born. Well, she's still a baby. When all mankind who are left on the earth will die, he and his sons will be saved. They who begot giants on the earth, not according to the Spirit, but according to the flesh, will suffer a great punishment on the earth, and the earth will be cleansed from all impurity. And now make known to your son Lamech that he who will be born is truly his son. So it kind of says this in 2 ways. The son's been born, but it's also a dream of the son being born. And this is Enoch's book. This is his writings. And he and his sons will be saved from destruction, which will come on the earth, on account of all the sin and all the unrighteousness which will be consumed on the earth in his days. And after that, there will be more unrighteousness than that which was first committed on the earth. For I know the mysteries of the holy ones, for he, the Lord, has shown me and informed me, and I have read them in the heavenly tablets. The flood will not be the complete end. And I saw written on them that generations upon generations will transgress, till a generation of righteousness arises. And transgression is destroyed, and sin disappears from the earth, and all manner of good comes upon it. And now, my son, go tell your son Lamech that his son, which will be born, really will be his son, and that this one is no lie. And when Methuselah had heard the words of his father Enoch, for he had shown to him everything in secret, he returned with the interpretation and explained it to him, and called the name of that son Noah, for he will comfort the earth after all the destruction. Now the name Noah came from Methuselah. Okay, Methuselah said, this is Noah, for he will comfort the earth after destruction. Okay, that's all it says in the book of Enoch about it. Now, and this he just gave it to me today, so I didn't get a chance to, I mean, you've seen it. But I know there's stuff in here. Here's a testimony. Anyway.
That's about Noah. In there is about Noah.
in here is about Noah.
is about Noah, that's Testament of Noah.
Well, this particular, this is a bunch of them. This is a
Okay.
testament, okay, each person,
Ancient writings.
yeah,
refer to them.
each person left each king,
Mhm.
starting with Adam, left a testament to be kept.
Yeah.
And that is the ones that we follow in the Old Testament, because all the others have gone away. And Noah is the one that put these scrolls on
The
the
ark.
ship, on the ark. And that's why we have them. Here's a testament of Lamech, Noah's father. And see, some of these just are fragments.
Right.
Times of dominion, then it skips word, in the generations, it skips words, appointed times. And that's all that that fragment has. But anyway, so there's Testament of Enos.
So these would have been scrolls that the Essenes had?
That's what they figured. They came on the ark, and that they were in the temple. And when the Pharisees came, kicked them out, they went to Qumran, and they took those scrolls with them, the ancient scrolls with them. So, I haven't had a chance to read that. So, now let's go to Jasher. And Jasher says the apostasy to Noah's birth. And it goes through about each one of them being, okay, Enoch was made king, and then on down to Noah. Okay, so, now the interesting thing, well, I'll get into that in a minute. Okay, apostasy to Noah's birth. Enoch ascends. Methuselah then becomes king of the world. And all the days that Enoch lived upon the earth were 365, same as the Bible says. And when Enoch had ascended,
365 years?
Yep, that's all he lived. But he didn't die.
But there's 365 days a year.
Isn't that something? There's a lot of other things like that too.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of other things. And when Enoch had ascended into heaven, all the kings of the earth rose. Now kings, they called, like mayors were king of a city. So there's all kings under them.
Right.
Okay, when Enoch had ascended into heaven, all the kings of the earth rose and took Methuselah, his son, and anointed him, and they caused him to reign over them in the place of his father. And Methuselah acted uprightly in the sight of God, as his father Enoch had taught him. And he likewise, during the whole of his life, taught the sons of men wisdom, knowledge, and the fear of God. And he did not turn from the good way either to the right or to the left. But in the latter days of Methuselah, the sons of men turned from the Lord. They corrupted the earth. They robbed and punished each other. And they rebelled against God, and they transgressed, and they corrupted their ways, and would not hearken to the voice of Methuselah, but rebelled against him. And the Lord was exceedingly wroth against them, and the Lord continued to destroy the seed in those days, so that there were neither sowing nor reaping in the earth. So, we're getting ready for Noah's to come on board, literally.
To be born,
Well,
or to start
yeah,
building the
what's
ark.
apostasy mean? This talking about what's going to happen? Is that talking about his future?
Apostasy?
Yeah, A-P-O-S-T-A-S-Y. Apostasy to Noah's birth. Anyway, so yeah, I think that's the point, that this is just before Noah's born. Because in the latter days of Methuselah, no, the latter days would be Noah hadn't come on the scene yet, but Noah was born.
Apostasy is, the abandonment or renunciation of a religious or political belief.
Okay, well, and that's what it does.
The execution of their leader for apostasy brought widespread criticism. So they abandoned the laws of God.
Right, and they abandoned the teachings of Methuselah in Methuselah's latter days.
Okay.
And Noah and Methuselah, his grandfather,
Mm-hmm.
because his father died young. Lamech died,
What, 160
yeah,
years?
60-some years, 560-some years or something like that, whatever I said. And so Methuselah and Noah are preaching continually, and I read this through other things here, but nobody was listening to them. They were laughing at him. They made fun of him for building an ark out in the middle of nowhere, that kind of thing. So, okay.
Because in theory, they did not know what rain was.
Right.
It had never rained.
It had never rained, but there was more than rain that came. There was, and that talks in the Bible
Right.
about how underwater things broke
Right,
up.
yeah. Which is weird because they're finding out
That the water level's going down and they don't know where it's going.
but not only that, but they're now thinking that there's water under the Earth's crust. Because seismologists that
Have
study
determined that there is now.
that it's almost like they can hear a sloshing. You know, like when you drink too much water and you feel sloshing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Plus the fact that they're announcing, of course, they're calling it climate change, but that the water levels are going down instead of going up, because the melting of the sun makes it goes up, but it's going down instead. Okay, so when they sowed ground, they wasn't getting much food, so there's starvation. Huh? That's what they're talking about now. Coming
Have you seen the drought? The drought map?
from the west. Yeah, the whole west is red.
It's like that's where California is where food comes from.
To a large degree,
I
it
know.
sure is. Yeah, yeah,
I know, it's amazing.
yeah. And a lot of other stuff comes from California too. And that ain't good. Okay, the Lord continued to destroy the seed. Okay, when they sowed the ground in order that they might obtain food for their support, behold, thorns and thistles were produced, which they did not sow. And still, the sons of men did not turn from their evil ways, and their hands were still extended to do evil in the sight of God, and they provoked the Lord with their evil ways. And the Lord was very wroth and repented that he had made man, and he thought to destroy and annihilate them, and he did so. Now, we're up to year 1042. Okay? In those days when Lamech, the son of Methuselah, was 168 years old, Seth, the son of Adam, died. Okay? So, we got Noah getting ready, probably born already.
Right.
And Adam's son dies, his third son. Okay. And all the days that Seth lived were 912 years, and he died. And Lamech was 180 years old when he took Ashmua, Ashmua, the daughter of Elishaa, the son of Enoch. So Enoch's other son had a daughter that Lamech married to produce Noah.
Right.
Okay. and Enoch his uncle, and she conceived. And at that time the sons of men sowed the ground, and a little food was produced. Yet the sons of men did not turn from their evil ways, and they trespassed and rebelled against God. Okay, Noah wasn't born. 1056 is when Noah was born. And the wife of Lamech conceived and bare him a son at that time, at the revolution of the year. That must be the first of the year. And Methuselah called his name Noah. Again, Methuselah called his name Noah, saying that, and that come from here, the Methuselah, saying that the earth was in his days at the rest and free from corruption. And Lamech his father called his name Menachem, saying, this one shall comfort us in our works and miserable toil in the earth which God had cursed. So his father gave him a different name.
Menachem?
Yeah.
Like Menachem Begin?
Well, that could be, yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
So that's where that name came from.
Yeah, Menachem, yeah, Menachem.
Menachem.
Saying, this one shall comfort us in our works and miserable toil in the earth which God had cursed, which we read earlier. And the child grew up and was weaned, and he went in the ways of his father Methuselah, perfect and upright before God. Didn't say he went in the ways of his real father.
Right.
He went in the ways of his grandfather Methuselah. And all the sons of men departed from the ways of the Lord in those days, as they multiplied upon the face of the earth with sons and daughters, and they taught one another their evil practices, and they continued sinning against the Lord. And every man made unto himself a god, and they robbed and plundered every man his neighbor as well as his relative. And they corrupted the earth, and the earth was filled with violence. Excuse me. And their judges and rulers went to the daughters of men, and took their wives by force from their husbands, according to their choice. And the sons of men in those days took from the cattle.
They're calling them sons of men.
And I don't understand the sons of men and the sons of God. And I can kind of understand sons of men. That means man had produced them.
Right.
But when you come to sons of God, that's almost like the fallen angels are
Right.
even sons of God.
Right.
But I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah, because that would make, if they were angels, if fallen angels would still be sons of God.
Yeah. So I haven't really got that. I mean, I guess I need more.
More books.
I have got more books. I have got books I've not even taken out of the cellophane yet that were testaments, like Gad, the seer, which was one of the 12 sons. I haven't even taken it out of the cellophane yet, but I want to read it.
Yeah.
But anyway.
All right, we got 3 minutes.
Oh, but now I wanted to cover this. I thought this was kind of important. And okay, so we got Noah born. And the Lord said, I will blot out man that I created from the earth, yea, from man to the birds of the air, and so on. And all men who walked in the ways of the Lord died in those days, before the Lord brought the evil upon man, which he had declared. For this was from the Lord, that they should not see the evil which the Lord spoke concerning of the sons of men. And Noah found grace in the sight of the Lord. And the Lord chose him and his children to rise up seed from them upon the face of the earth. Okay, Noah to Methuselah. But those kids say. Okay. Enosh died. 1140. Enosh died. 1235. Canaan died. 1290. Mahalia died. 1422. Jared died. And 1536, God warns of the coming flood. Okay, so Noah knew all this was going to happen, so he didn't get married for a while. But God told him to. And Noah marries this one. And thou shalt rise up seed and thy children with thee in the midst of the earth. And Noah went and took a wife, and he chose, same as we read over here, name of the daughter of Enoch. And he says the daughter of Enoch, but it's the daughter of the son of Enoch. And she was 580 years old. And Noah was 498. So I guess she was robbing the cradle or something there, I guess.
He married an older woman.
Yeah. And he took him as a wife. And then Shem was born. And because a lot of theories are that these three kids was a triplets. But it's not, because it tells when they were born.
Right, yeah, they were.
Right. But the sisters, their wives, they married just before they got on the boat. And they went back to Enoch's family and took the three daughters, to marry his son. Noah went back and took three daughters from them to marry his sons. Because there's also theories out there that the giants in Jesus' days, or in David's days, came from Ham's wife, which probably had that kind of blood in her. But that's not true if this is fact, because they were all daughters of the same line of kings. Anyway, and she conceived and bore a son, and then called his name Jephthah, Japheth, saying, God has enlarged me on the earth. And she conceived again and bare a son, and he called his name Shem. And it really doesn't say anything about Ham being born, but it does talk about three sons. Then Lamech died. Okay, Noah's father died, but Methuselah is still alive. The ark, in his 595th year, Noah commenced to make the ark. Everybody thinks it was 400 or 500 years. According to this, it was a short period of time to build it, a few years. Commenced to make the ark, and he made the ark in 5 years, as the Lord commanded. And Noah took three daughters of Elikim, the son of Methuselah. He was a grandson of Methuselah, Noah was. But
so that's why they would have been older.
he took three daughters of Elikim, the son of another son.
Which is the generation before.
Yeah,
this.
right, before his dad.
Right.
Yeah. For wives for his son, and the Lord, as the Lord had commanded Noah. Then Methuselah died, and it was at that time Methuselah, the son of Enoch, died, 969 years old was he at his death. Then it goes into the flood. So that's the history, the days of Noah before. I mean, that's what's recorded in these two things. And I haven't had a chance to.
But then you fast forward to Christ being tempted by Satan, who is the ruler of this world.
People don't understand.
And it makes sense that where would the fallen angels go? If Satan is their leader, they're going to follow their leader.
Right.
And they're going to be here.
Exactly.
And again, it's spiritual, it's not physical.
And Noah, and they said, or Methuselah, Enoch, one of them said, as we just read, that the flood wasn't going to be the end, there was still going to be corruption.
Right.
But we're seeing the same kind of corruption now.
I mean, people that aren't able to produce food, that are living on welfare. There are those of us that are working to provide for their lifestyle, which is, I mean, it's similar. I'm not a farmer, but I'm still a
Well,
worker.
I mean, it's still the same thing.
Yeah, I'm a worker
Right.
and providing for someone else that isn't working. So I mean, it's like, it's the same thing where this farmer has to and this farmer doesn't.
Right. So it's like there was all kinds of violence, which we're seeing all kinds of violence. More than ever before, really.
See, and it pays to study the days of Noah because Christ said, as in the days of Noah.
That's what it was going to be. But it's interesting, and there's two ways to look at this. It's interesting that everybody died before the flood, except for the ones he put on the boat. Everybody that was a follower of God died, except for Noah and his family. In other words, and the same thing is true in Sodom and Gomorrah. When God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah with fire and brimstone. Okay, so now they found the sulfur stuff. You light sulfur, it makes a gas that'll kill you. And so the people were actually killed before they were burned. They didn't die from the fire, they died from the gas. And then,
Like most people do in a house fire.
yeah,
They die from smoke inhalation, not necessarily.
not from the fire, not really getting burned. And so God is merciful, and God took his children, his followers, home before. So now, does that mean pre-trib or not?
Right.
You know, boy, it tickled my throat. I did a lot of reading. Anyway, then it gets into the flood, which is really interesting.
Which will be next week.
Yeah, I'll do that next week.
Yeah.
I'll do that next week because it talks about all these other ones being born and Ham's descendants. It's really,
Detailed.
I'll try to read something in this too. I might even have another copy.
Good. We've set the groundwork.
Yeah.
You're
So what we gotta do is people that come next week and say, go back and listen. If he puts this on there, because I don't know. I mean, it's not from the Bible, the first part was, but it's not from the Bible, but it says the same thing, it just says more.